Hi, Anna.
Hi, how are you?
I think I'm doing better than you.
It's been okay, but you need to give your update because it's been 2 weeks now since we've
Yeah.
connected with the posse. How has the vaping journey been going for you?
Today is day 11 of no vaping.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I am really proud of myself. I feel a little embarrassed talking about it because we've been through this once before, you know? So I'm sort of like, God, am I really doing this again? Like almost a year later, but I do feel more motivated this time because I'm really, I want to like get this baby cooking. I'm not pregnant. I'm want to get pregnant.
Yes.
And I have found this time around the thing that is really keeping me like going is promising myself like little small rewards. So like the first week I would have these moments where I'd be like, it wouldn't be a big deal if I just like hit Colin's vape like one time, or if I like just vape today because today's gonna suck. And then I would tell myself like, no, you can't get your reward if you don't do that. So like having like small rewards every week, like really immediate like instant gratification is really helping me. Like I don't know why the like light at the end of the tunnel of like once I'm done with like the patch and I'm fully off nicotine, then I can get pregnant. I don't know why that's not enough motivation for me. I think it's maybe like a little too abstract and
Yes.
too like it feels far away because like you do the patch for like almost 2 months, you know? So it's it feels like a long time. But like having like something that's like only a couple days away feels really like I don't want to lose that.
Yes.
So it's like a lot of like mental gymnastics with myself, but it's going well.
What have your little treats been?
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. The first one was I bought the box set of the Court of Thorns and Roses books. Because I read them on Kindle or audiobook the first time, and there's this whole there's this whole universe around these books. There's 2 other series by this author, and the final series at the very end kind of ties back into the first one. And when I just finished it and I was like, I almost feel like I need to reread at some point to like fully understand the implications of this. And I'm like not going to do it yet because that would be crazy, but I have them now and I like those books so much that I feel like I should have physical copies of them. So
That's a great treat.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks. And then my treat this week is a pedicure because I have not gotten a pedicure all summer. Isn't that disgusting?
Wow.
It's really sad.
I mean, my heels are pretty gross right now, and when I'm showing poses to clients, I'm actively embarrassed unless I'm wearing socks. It's like not okay.
I just decided like I couldn't let a week in Arizona go by without a pedicure. So that's what I'm rewarding myself with at the end of this week.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And it talks about, like, Megan, when she was on the pod, was talking about the little treat for your little friend. And your little Taylor friend is doing great things. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're treating yourself.
Yeah, she's getting a little treat all the time. I give myself little treats throughout the day, too. Like, I'm constantly bargaining with myself. If I can get through this next hour, then I can go have a Starburst. Like, just shit like that nonstop.
I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be
How are
here.
you?
I'm fine. It's just things have just been a lot lately. And I said to you before we started recording, at the beginning of the summer, we were on the pod talking about how this was finally the summer where we were going to embrace summer a little bit. And we, the last 2 summers we really were working really hard and we didn't really get to do very many things. And then it's now September and once again we have not done very many things and we let a summer pass us by.
I know.
So it's okay though. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to Arizona. We're
Me
going
too.
to a photography conference next week. So that'll be great. We're going to do a lot of episodes while we're there. But
yeah. And we're going to learn from all these photographers who've been doing it for a long time. Like, how do you not overwork yourself so much and still stay in business?
Yeah. And we get to shoot with them and like, it's going to be a really fun creative week. So
yeah,
I'm
really
excited for that. Yeah.
And we have some creative shoots coming up too.
We do.
Which is always like a good and bad thing because it's extra work, but is, I feel like it helps fuel us.
It's going to be great. Everything's going to be great. Okay, I'm ready to talk about Maluma.
Yes, sorry, we should have started with that because obviously that's the most important thing. You're wearing your shirt.
I'm wearing my Maluma shirt today. This is my merch tee that I bought. It kind of looks like a boudoir photo, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Okay, before I go into my whole story, I will say the very intro of the concert kind of started out with like on the screen, it was these like black and white it looked like one of the boudoir videos I make of like
Really?
him, but he's like putting on like a button up shirt and he's like walking. It was like
Oh,
really, I was like, this
okay.
is one inspo. I'm like, maybe I need to do a male boudoir video because I have yet to do
Yeah.
that. And then also I was like, why didn't I film this? Like I wanted to be so I need to contact his people.
Yeah.
But
Wait, okay, this reminds me.
tell me.
We're going to have a male assistant at Naked Peach very soon.
We are.
We're training him in a week, and he is going to do a shoot.
Oh.
So he's going to have to be your video model.
Perfect. Okay, I'm really excited. Get ready for the content, posse.
Yeah, it's going to be so good.
Okay, so I am obsessed with Maluma. I have been for a very long time. One of my really good friends and I are both very obsessed with him. So much so that we'll hang out for hours and just watch his old music videos on repeat. He's like my Taylor Swift, you know?
Yeah.
So when I was pregnant, like the month I was supposed to give birth, or the month I gave birth, Maluma had a concert in Colombia in his hometown, and it was like crazy. And my friend and I, for a while, because we knew it was coming up, we were like, oh my God, like that would be the concert to go to if you're going to go to any concert. It's like, going to be so insane. I also have another friend who lives in Colombia, so I was like, I would love to go, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, it wasn't going to happen because I gave birth. But like Sophia was less than a week old and my friend comes over to my house and we're watching the live stream of this concert on Amazon together, like dancing around the living room. I have these like videos of like little baby Sophia like dancing too.
That's so cute.
It was really fun. And we just have a really like, joint love for him. So she got to see him in Miami one time and that was really incredible. I was very jealous. And then we find out he's coming to Portland, which was crazy. I was like, why is he in Portland? But also I'm like really excited that he's in Portland. And we were talking about the concert. And then my friend, she works for Nike. And you know how Nike, like every team at Nike has their Nike budget to do team events? Mm-hmm. My friend got her team for their team event to go to dinner and then got her boss to get the Nike box for the Maluma concert. So that was their team outing. And then she was like, obviously you're coming with me. And I was like, obviously I'm coming with you.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, so she surprised me with these tickets. I was at the coast this weekend with friends, but I mean, I knew about this a while ago, but I was like, okay, well, I'm coming back Saturday just to go to the concert and then driving back to the coast early morning Sunday to finish my little coast vacation. First of all, he's stunning. I'm obsessed with him. Second of all, his music's insane. Have you ever heard the song Hawaii?
No, I have to be honest with you. I did not know who Maluma was or that he existed before you.
Okay. I'll send you Hawaii. It's his like most popular song. It's a really good song. But he basically did this thing where he sang Hawaii, and when he sings Hawaii, he like lets the whole crowd sing with him. So he'll do like a really kind of slow version of the chorus where you're like singing with him, and then he like goes into the full song, and everyone's just like losing their minds. And then he did like at the end he did an encore, and he sang it again as an encore, and once again we all sang with him, and I swear it was like me and him were like singing to each other, it's like the two of us.
Yeah.
And there was one point in the show where like, so we're like in the box and we're on the opposite end of the arena from the stage. Then at one point of the show, he just pops up on the opposite end of the arena where he like has a mini stage and he does like multiple songs there. So he's literally right in front of us.
Like how many feet from you?
Well, I was in the box. So like he was on the floor, but like directly in front of me. Like if I jumped over the thing and then
you would land in his lap.
Basically. Yeah. So that was
incredible.
A really big surprise and incredible. We had the great time, and all her coworkers who barely knew any of his songs also had a great time. So.
I love this for you. This really is, it's the way you're talking about this. It reminds me of the way I talk about Taylor Swift. Like it's the same level of obsession. I'm happy you got to experience that.
Thank you. We had a great time. So let's intro our guest
yes.
because our guest knows my friend very well.
My cousin.
Yeah. So why didn't she invite you?
I don't know. I reached out to her right after I saw your Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? You picked Anna over me? Because she knows how spontaneous I am. Like, she's called me before. She called me for Dua literally the day of. And it wasn't free, by the way. I actually had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Nike did not sponsor that one. Okay. And we went and had the best time. And what's crazy about all of this is every time she comes over to my house, this is so well known in my entire family. Like even my husband will be like, oh my God, every time she comes over, she'll just turn on like the TV and put Maluma on. Like my husband, who does not listen to Maluma, didn't know what it was, knows who Maluma is, okay? And this is like a country guy.
Oh my
but God. He knows Maluma because of her. And she doesn't invite me. But it's okay.
Wow.
Okay, we'll
I feel like we need to call her and
so.
put her on
we need to ask her.
and get an explanation.
So.
There was room in the box. Like you could have come. I mean,
So Yeah, see, if you hadn't told me that, but now
You're
I'm
adding fuel
upset
to the
all
fire.
over again.
Okay, so Shangar, welcome to the
Hi.
pod.
Hi.
I'm so excited that you're here. You're like a vision to me, first of all.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
you're
So
like,
nice.
you're so sweet. We obviously, like, we met through Connie and through your sister Mina, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I think I just like really look up to you because you're always so like refined and polished, but you're also this like amazing like badass lawyer, which I think is so cool. And you're like, you just seem so successful in your career, in your home life, with
Oh
your
my
family.
gosh.
Like, you just, everything is like so stunning. And I've been to your home actually multiple times with Connie when you were out of town and she was like house sitting. Yeah.
Did I know this?
No, I don't think you did. But your home is like one of the most beautiful homes I've ever seen. It looks like it belongs in Palm Springs. It's like very mid-century modern, stunning, has like an atrium inside of it.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
really
love.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, is this the one where you guys went to the pool one day after
Yeah.
one of our shoots in the summer?
Yeah.
I love this. She must have texted me and I was just like, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was all like during COVID. So it's like we would be working together
Oh,
outside and we
yeah,
would
yeah,
just go
yeah.
like sit outside at
Yeah.
your house. Yeah. But you just have such an interesting story. So I want to kind of start from the beginning and go
Okay.
through like relationships, go through law, we're going to talk about like pregnancy, IVF. We're just really going to cover everything. So
Yeah.
let's start at the beginning and let's get into it.
Let's
I'm
get
so
into it.
excited. We basically want the manual for how do we follow the steps you've taken
Oh my
to
gosh.
be as fabulous as you are.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. I am glad that it looks like everything's put together because behind the scenes, my head's spinning. So that's really sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, you start.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start kind of at the beginning. So, because
Okay.
you weren't a lawyer like right away. Like it wasn't like you graduated high school and then immediately went into college and immediately went into law, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what was your journey in the beginning?
So I always knew that I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
That's the thing. And then I did start undergrad, and that was very much like the natural progression for me. And then I thought I was going to go to law school, be a partner at a law firm by 25. But, life just doesn't work out that way. I'm not kidding. When I graduated high school, I made a list of things that I would do in chronological order. Not joking. And getting married was definitely like way further down the line. But I ended up meeting my first husband during my freshman year in college. And then we got married. Yeah, that was kind of like the beginning. And then I moved to Europe with him for 4 years to pursue his career. And then,
You left school to do that.
yeah, which
Okay.
was such a controversial decision in my family. And honestly, I never saw myself doing that either. But he was an athlete, and as an athlete, the clock was ticking.
Yeah.
For them, the younger they are, the better. So we just gave up everything, got married, and went to Europe. And while I was in Europe, I would do everything I could to find like purpose, because I'm not the type to just sit there. Like, I needed to do something. We didn't have kids, and he had, this really crazy schedule. So I would like mentor kids and like try to teach them English. At this point, I was in Hungary, I think. And then we moved to France. And in France, I just remember like I would stay up all night and I would paint. And then I downloaded Photoshop for fun one night. And it was like the 7-day trial they used to do. I don't
Yeah.
know if they even do that anymore. And I just started like playing on Photoshop, like with random photographs that I had just taken. And then I remember one of the girls, he was a basketball player. So one of the other basketball player wives was like super insecure, going through a lot. I was like, let me do my hair or your hair and makeup, take you out and take photos of you and like dress you and do the whole thing. I had never done this before, but I was so excited. And I was one of 4 girls in my family. So I was like, okay, this will be so much fun. And like, I'm a girl's girl, so like female empowerment, like I just grew up with it and it didn't have a label in my house. So I was doing what I knew how to do, I guess. And so I remember I did her hair and makeup, took her out onto the beach. At this point, we were in France and took all these beautiful photos of her, and just that whole chapter started.
That's so sweet.
I love this.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
It was amazing.
Did it like make a big difference for her confidence when you gave her the photos?
Yeah,
I bet.
for sure. But she was like going through marital issues, and being like an athlete's wife too, like there are all of these other women around, and you're you know, and so I think she was going through some of that. And then when she saw herself in this light that I saw her in, it was different for her. And yeah.
Okay, so you started doing that. Then what brought you back to the States?
Divorce.
Okay.
Ta-da! Yeah, so my ex-husband and I decided to separate. That life was just not for me at all. And lots of...
Did you have like supportive family friends going through that, or was that like a really hard time?
My family and friends were definitely supportive, but nobody else was going through that.
Okay.
In fact, I got married the youngest out of my friend group. Everybody else went to college, and I kind of did things backwards. And like in my community, I was the first person to like marry an American, so it was a huge deal. And so when I was going through that divorce, everybody was kind of like, told you so, we knew this was going to happen. But it all worked out for the best.
And you got to travel the world like so
I
young,
did.
which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I did. And you know, it's like, I feel like when you travel so young too, it really develops the person you are.
Yeah.
Like you see the world and you're outside of this tiny bubble that we're in here, and you see different cultures and stuff, and you just have a different perspective on life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long were you guys together before you got divorced?
We were together like married or just total?
Married. Like how long were you traveling basically?
4 years.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
a long time to
Yeah.
be just like traveling all over Europe.
Yeah. I mean, we'd have breaks. I'd come here a lot. There were times that I would come back for a few months and I would do a lot of like makeup artistry here. But then I would go back. Yeah.
Was it hard, like, because you're really close, so your whole family is so close. Was it hard to just leave and be away for so long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so hard, especially because that was when social media was not really a thing yet. And we didn't really have smartphone. I think like the iPhone came out like towards the end of my marriage. So having WhatsApp and like that connection with the other side of the world just through Wi-Fi was not really a thing. I remember we were literally paying like thousands of dollars for phone bills. And that was just for us to stay like minimally connected to our family. And we could email and stuff and chat online. But like there wasn't like Instagram and Snapchat and like all the stuff you do now to stay connected, which would make it easier. We didn't have any of that, so it was super hard.
Yeah, that would be so hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come back, you get divorced, and you're like, okay, like what are you doing at that point? You're like restarting everything, right?
Yeah, so I came back on terrible terms with my ex. I mean, I'm trying not to disclose everything just out of respect for him, which I don't know why I have any, but anyways. It was not a good situation. I came here, basically everything was under my name because I had credit in the United States. He didn't, and this is something maybe people could learn from. So I got left with all of our debt, literally all of our debt. I had no job and I had nothing really lined up, which was terrifying. But I did come back with a mission and I gave myself literally days. I remember I moved back March 9th of 2009, and within the next week I was enrolled in classes. And I was like, yep, we're not wasting any time. And that's exactly what I did. And I hit it so hard. And I got a job at Nordstrom doing more artistry. Then like I remember I had posted some stuff on MySpace, which was like marginally a thing then. And I was like trying to use it. Somebody reached out and was like, oh, how much would you charge to take our family's photos? And that's like when that light bulb moment like went off. And I was like, okay, I can make money from this talent. I'm really freaking good at it. Because I didn't stop at that one photo shoot I did of that friend. All the other wives ended up wanting photos too. And then, it ended up being a thing and snowballing, but I didn't think I could make money from it. And then I immediately taught myself how to market, how to use Photoshop. And then Facebook started being a thing. Instagram started being a thing. And I was always super inspired by Annie Leibovitz. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. And I loved her photography and the colors and the lighting. And I just started asking my friends. I was like, can I take photos of you so I can use it to market? And then I would take photos and then their friends would see it on. So that was my strategy. It's like they would post photos of themselves online and then their friends would see it and then it would generate all of these bookings. I did it all the way through, I think, like my first year of law school.
No, that's like so impressive. So
Yeah.
so you're doing photography, you're doing Nordstrom, and you're going to school. Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
And I started an internship at Senator Merkley's office at the same time. So my calendar, I kid you not, was like 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. and I would sleep like 6 hours minimal because from my perspective, I was like, okay, I missed out on years of building myself. So now this is what I'm going to do. And success is going to be my revenge. Everybody that was like, oh, you're a divorcee now at 24 or whatever, I was like, we're going to make a comeback. And
Yeah.
that's literally what I did.
You had something to
Like,
prove.
yeah. But I think to myself, more than anything, I was so hard on myself for quitting school.
Yeah.
After my first year of undergrad. Like, I think I was my biggest critic.
Totally.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's so impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I worked really freaking hard. I'm not even going to downplay that.
Yeah.
I barely had any like social time. I was always working.
Well, I feel like also the way you did it, like, you probably got so much more done in that time that you were in school than you would have if you had just followed the traditional path. Because
Yeah.
when you're younger, you might not be taking it as seriously. You maybe wouldn't have been
That's
doing
true.
all those different things and, like, building yourself up as much. So it's like, you know, coming back with that, like, chip on your shoulder probably made you way more successful than you would have been in the first place.
You're probably right. Honestly, I think that is definitely something. Like when you're a lot younger, you don't appreciate the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I lost time, so there was no way I was gonna,
Like, take it for
waste any
granted.
time
Yeah.
or exactly take it for granted. I was gonna take everything and do it, like give it 100%.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So then you do that. You become a lawyer.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
super easy.
Yeah.
Just
It's
like that.
just
And
Just
if
like
the blink
8
of an
years
eye.
of school, no big deal.
And then what was your experience like just kind of starting out in like the legal field? Just seems like it was probably like such a crazy culmination to finally be like, okay, I'm here, like I've made it in some sense. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, doing all these things that I worked literally 8 years, busted my ass, didn't sleep for, you know, like that must have been insane.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now that you're like asking me that, I don't know if I've even had that moment.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I've made it. Maybe my first law job, I was like, okay, I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my first law job. But I think to some extent, I've always been like, okay, what's the next thing? And I don't know if that's just a me thing. I will say there was a moment when, like, during my law school graduation, like, seeing my parents in the audience and, like, how proud they were. And, like, our graduation book had, like, it outlined every single, like, scholarship and grant, like, given to anybody. And my name was there. And they were, like, super annoyed with it. Like, but it was nice. And, like, they were so proud. I think that was, like, a moment that I was like, okay, like, it was all worth it.
Yeah.
And when you have immigrant parents, I feel like that stuff just hits different, you know?
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they give up everything to come here, and then like when they see you on stage, like grabbing your JD, there's like you feel good about it.
Okay, so then becoming a lawyer, I just want to ask, like, what are some just basic legal things that I guess women in particular, because that's our main audience, our posse, should just like look out for as you're navigating life, as you're sometimes when I think about like, okay, I need to like consult a lawyer or talk to a lawyer, there's a part of my mind that's like, oh no, that's for like really, really serious stuff. But I know that's not really the case, and there's like more minimal stuff that you should actually probably be like talking to somebody about, or at least considering if you're just like signing regular paperwork, or I don't know. Can you give us some general tips? Yeah. Okay.
There are so many female entrepreneurs that I know. So when you're setting up a business, I know it's super easy to set up an LLC and things like that, but it's really important to consult with an attorney to understand what your obligations are. For example, tax obligations, you know, what are the papers you need to file with the Secretary of State, talk to an accountant as well. I don't know much about that, but like another thing too, and this is probably because I went into a second marriage. And that in conjunction with going to law school, I think it gave me some insight. Going into a marriage, it's super important to understand, like if you're going to sign a prenuptial agreement, and also just like walking into a marriage with assets, or walking into a marriage and knowing that you'll probably make more. What is that going to look like if you go through a dissolution or something like that? It's really important to have those pieces of the puzzle in place. So just basically consulting with an attorney about what that would look like. And, some people might think that that's a negative approach to marriage. I don't see it that way. I think it's being smart. I've definitely had friends who are super successful and they're making a lot more than their husbands, and they're in a situation where they didn't really think this through, and now they're stuck in a marriage because they're going to have to give them assets that they came into the marriage with, or helped build or whatever, and they make a lot more than the husband now, and they're going to have to pay them spousal support, so on and so forth. And obviously, just in addition to that, just basic things, when you're signing something, actually read it. So I don't know if that's really a lawyer thing, but there are a lot of times where I'll purchase something or I'll sign off on something, or the number of times in life you come across a waiver, like you need to actually read everything. I remember the second IVF surgery I had, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I remember the doctor and the entire medical team came in with the anesthesia waiver form. And I just sat there and I started like reading the whole thing. And I think they were all just kind of like, we don't go through this very often.
Yeah.
So just know what you're, signing, and, just generally knowing like what your rights are in different settings. And we briefly talked about employment, and before signing a contract at work, see what the contract looks like and what the ramifications are years down the line. If you're thinking about becoming a mother, what does the maternity leave look like? What are the different policies within the place that you're going to work at? So these are just general considerations, I would say, without getting too specific.
Mm-hmm.
Often I will call myself out, sign things that I skim over, and I'm like, I should probably not be skimming this.
Yeah. I definitely have done that. And, as someone who's started a business, there's a lot of like startups and services out there that will kind of like automate things for you. So you can use a service that will like automate starting a business and file all the documents for you. And they use sort of like a basic operating agreement to give you. And I've used one of those thinking this doesn't really matter. I don't really need it. And then like years down the line, it really did matter. And I really, needed it. And because it was written by like an AI, there were like things that like conflicted with each other in the agreement. And, so I feel like things like that, like when you're starting a business in particular, just because that's what my experience is in, like I would definitely get a lawyer to help you with that.
Yeah.
Because even if you're like, you have a dime to your name at the time, like 10 years down the road, if you're really successful, like that agreement is still going to be what like everything falls back to.
Dictates everything.
Yeah.
It's so important because a lot of people are nervous about hiring attorneys, but when you think about the pros and cons and just weigh what, if you paid $1,000 or $2,000 for someone to review a contract for you, versus like in the long run. Like, for example, I have a friend who just got a stellar job offer, and she is a resident. And so she's going to work at this private firm. Okay, we're just going to call it that. And they gave her the longest, most extensive contract. So she's like, oh my gosh, like this is not what I do. I'm in medicine. I need you to take a look at everything in here and how it can impact me years down the line, because they want kids, all these things, right, that can come into play. And I personally don't do, anything with contracts, but my husband does. It's almost exclusively what he does. And so he looked through everything and he brought things to her attention, like this could matter in this type of setting. And I know she's so appreciative of that, because years down the line, the $1,000 or $2,000, that she coughed up to get a little bit of advice on that contract, it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Then you don't even think about that. It's nothing compared to what you could potentially be like losing or liable for. It depends on the settings. So
in those types of settings, like when you're getting a job offer from a big company, or like you're signing a lease, or like your mortgage loan documents, are those types of things usually negotiable, or is it more about just knowing what it says and walking away if you're not comfortable with the terms?
I think it really depends. I mean, with a lease, if you're a landlord and those are your terms of the lease, then they're your terms. You don't have to really. I mean, there are basic rules in place, I know, for landlords, things that they're obligated to do. But then in an employment setting, you can definitely negotiate some things, Like for me personally, and I'm not saying this has happened, but I've learned a lot through my fertility journey that these things would matter to me. if I were, let's say, looking for a new job right now, I would have a lot of questions that I didn't have for the firm that I'm at right now about what their maternity leave looks like, what the support looks like leading up to maternity leave and after. So there are different things you can do to at least put on the employer's radar, so that they know, okay, she planted the seed, and then if that happens, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So there are some, it really depends. I know that that's like the worst answer a lawyer can give. We always joke about that. It's like, it's never black and white.
Yeah.
It just depends,
Yeah.
you know, on the setting.
Spoken like a true lawyer.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
I had
good.
a time one time, but I was signing a lease for one of our apartments, and they had used like a generated, like I think it was like a Zillow generated thing, and then like some of the stuff like wasn't even applicable to the kind of place that we were staying in, and then some of it was like directly conflicted with stuff we had talked about, and so and I just like read through the whole thing because I was so paranoid. But when I brought it up, they're like, oh, we didn't even know this was in our own lease. So like sometimes I think people like send contracts, they don't even know what's in their own contract,
scary.
you know.
That's
I've had
actually
situations like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so, it's interesting you're bringing this up because in law right now, AI is also all the rage. AI is all the rage everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about how this is impacting our field. And one of the things we are seeing is just that, where people are just putting something into ChatGPT or whatever and generating something. And then they think it's like legally binding and it's citing the wrong case law. It's citing cases that don't exist. An attorney apparently did that actually.
Oh
They
my God.
submitted a brief to like the Supreme Court or something, I don't know, and of some state, not like the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And they submitted the brief and it cited all of these non-existent cases.
That's so
Yeah.
embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually something that you should do is review every single contract so you know it's not AI generated.
Okay, these
Yeah.
are great tips.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys.
Okay, you've mentioned your husband a couple of times. So can you tell us how you met your husband and how that process happened?
Yeah, so we met. Ugh, I always get so like emotional, and you
That's
know,
so
because I
cute.
love him so much. I went through a lot before my husband, so you know, I definitely don't take him for granted. I walked into a job interview after my first year of law school, and it's crazy because after my first year, I was like, okay, because it's important to get a job and a clerkship after your first and second year of law school, so you could secure employment for later on. But I was kind of like, yeah, but what if I go back to the Middle East? Because I haven't been back in so long. Like, I have been working so much that I have not had a chance to go since I was 19, which is crazy. But so I was like, maybe I'll just go back to Iraq and just, I don't know, volunteer or something. Because I've worked in Iraq. I actually worked there. That's something we missed.
Oh, yeah.
After my first year of college, before I got married, I worked for a nonprofit there, and it was
Oh, wow.
super rewarding. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll do something like that because, from my perspective, you know, education's not just about what you study in the books. It's really how you apply it and how you immerse yourself in the world and your experiences in the world. And so I was like, okay, I'll go back to Iraq for the summer. But then my old boss from another job during undergrad calls me. And I worked briefly at a law firm too during undergrad, so I could see what it's like to be a lawyer. And he's like, hey, are you looking for a clerkship? And I was like, you never say no. Like if a job as a law student comes to you or there's a potential, you don't say no. So I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay, my friend so-and-so is looking for a clerk. Do you want to interview tomorrow? And I literally, I remember I was on I-5 South, like pulled over on the freaking freeway. And he's like, okay, write down these details. And I'm like writing down these details and go buy a suit, stat, and then go to this job interview the next day. And so I interview with the lead guy. And he's like, oh, you know what? I like you. Before we even waste anybody's time and interview somebody else, let me just go get my other partner. And I'm like, okay. So he goes and gets the second partner. So now it's me and two older dudes like sitting here, you know, this interview. And then they're like, you know, let's just grab our third guy. If he says yes, then it's game over. You're going to get this job. And I was like, okay. And the third guy walks in and it's my future husband. And I have no idea. But I was like... He was beautiful.
Like you didn't know, but you
beautiful.
knew.
Well, the thing is, like, I've always been so disciplined in a work setting. I was like, not a chance. And I remember, like, he sat down and he was a little flirtatious. He goes, oh, you have, Representative so-and-so on your resume. He's one of my good friends. If I called him, what would he say? And I looked at him. I was like, he would say, don't let her walk away. Offer her a job right now. And he was like, okay. I was like, okay.
This is like the plot of a romance novel.
Really.
But really, don't let me go. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but then he added me on LinkedIn, which I'm telling you, nobody that interviews you will add you on LinkedIn unless you have the job. You're already part of the team. And if they're like maybe interested a little bit.
Yeah.
So they reach out and they offer me a job and nothing happens. And I was just ecstatic to start my first day of work. Iraq went out the window, by the way. I obviously didn't go home. I worked with him that summer. And I remember I would like really overthink everything I was wearing. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I'm always generally like put together, but I was like really overthinking it.
You have killer style. Like you are Amal Clooney. Like your style is insane.
Yes, it's very much giving Amal Clooney.
Yeah.
I love that because I love her and I admire her, so I'll take it. But so anyways, and I remember my first day of work, I'm just like sitting there and then the head guy comes in and he goes, yeah, by the way, I completely forgot to tell you, I don't really do litigation. He goes, I do more settlements, mediations. This other guy doesn't do them either. So you're actually going to be working with Darian.
And that's your husband.
That's my husband. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to be working with this guy. And again, like, he was gorgeous, but I wasn't like, oh my God, something is going to happen. And then we worked together, and like, we started just becoming super good friends. We both went through really bad divorces. And so there were times like we'd sit there for like hours and just confide in each other and like, talk through things. And I think in a lot of ways we were both healing. Like I was years out from mine and he was only a year out from his. And like we were both kind of, healing. And then the moment that like really like I think solidified everything. I mean, by then I would say I was like 4 months into working there. Okay. Nothing had happened.
Mm-hmm. That's a long time.
I'm like so surprised by. Yeah.
But you guys were every day working together. Yes. And you're probably like thinking about it and trying not to think about it.
I know. Yeah. And the chemistry was insane. And I remember one day, and this was actually like closer to the beginning of when I started working there. I was at the front desk or his office was close to the front desk. So he could kind of hear what was happening. And I go to the front desk girl and I go, hey, do you know if we have like any boxes, like supply boxes, empty supply boxes that I can use to move because I'm moving this weekend? And she was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think we do. And then he pops up out of nowhere. And he goes, oh, did you say you're moving? And I was like, yeah. He goes, I have boxes. I just moved. And I was like, oh, really? He goes, yeah. And I was like, do you mind? I'm a law student, so I don't have, money at this point to like go and buy a bunch of boxes. And he's like, I would be happy to like meet with you. And he goes, let me see if I have the right number for you.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I'm in your phone. I mean, I didn't say that, but
that
I
was
definitely
when you knew.
caught it and like tried to like keep myself together. I was like, I'm in his phone. I am totally in his phone. This isn't one-sided. I'm not overthinking things. And so sure enough, he had my number. And then I remember later that night, I was going out with my sisters, Mina being one of them. And I was like, you guys, I'm just going to put it out there right now. My boss is gorgeous. So, okay, cool. But nothing's ever happening. But let's just get this out there. We're done. And they're like, okay. So I go and I pull up to meet him where he wants me to. And he's on a freaking date. He's on a date.
No.
It's like this candle lit restaurant. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you on a date? And he goes, oh no. And I was like, yeah, right. Okay. You're on a freaking date. You just stepped away from her to give me boxes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he like gives me the boxes. And I just remember like and this is so crazy, like, to think about this moment because these end up being my stepkids. Like, I look at the boxes and one of them is like Coco with all these like sparkles. She had like put what is it, like glue stick?
Oh, like glitter glue.
Yeah, glitter glue. And it was so cute. And I just could not like ruin them during the move. So I like made sure they stayed in pristine condition, used them and gave them back because they were so cute. They were all personalized for each of the kids. I just remember like a few months in, we were sitting there like super late. We were going to go to trial in Seattle, actually. And I had done a lot of research for this case. And I just looked at him and I go, what book are you reading right now? And he goes, I'm not reading a book. What book are you reading? And I was like, The Alchemist. And he goes, I've never read it. I was like, what? You've never read The Alchemist? It's life-changing. Like, by the way, it is life-changing.
Have you read it?
I haven't read it.
I haven't read it either.
Really?
I've heard about it, but I haven't read it.
Oh my God, you guys, it's a short read, life-changing. I've read it 3 or 4 times, and every time you read it in that stage of life, it applies differently. So I was like, you need to get it. And he goes, okay, I will. I was like, when are you going to get it and where? He goes, at Powell's. And I go, do you want to go now? And he goes, yep. He shuts the laptop. And that was it. Like, we go to Powell's and we went to like the rare book room upstairs, you know, like where they have like the giant photography books. And so we're like going through the photography book and like there were a couple of times like, I know.
Did your hands brush?
Where, yeah, I thought I was going to die. I was like, oh my God. Like, I thought I was going to die. But I felt so guilty because I really didn't want to be involved with someone that I worked with. And I also didn't want to, like, his name was on my paycheck, you know, and I just couldn't do that. Like, I was having such a hard time with that because I remember, like, when I worked at this other firm, even before law school, they would talk about this girl who, like, ended up marrying her boss, and it was, like, following her everywhere. And what happens is, like, in a setting like that, is the woman gets scrutinized for it, and it follows her for years because she fell in love. But then the guy gets high-fived for it.
Always.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, I'm not ending up like that. Like, there's not a chance.
And you had just gone through this insane journey to even get into, like...
I know.
So
you
it's
don't
like,
want to jeopardize
you just started, and all of a sudden you're like, shit, I'm in love. Like, that's so scary.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it was. And like, him and I started dating secretly, and I was like, listen, we need to talk about this. There's not a chance that anything on planet Earth is going to jeopardize what I've created for myself. And I know what this is going to look like if it comes out. People are going to high-five you, and I'm going to lose opportunities, and I'm not going to let that happen. So I was like, if we're going to date, we're dating out of town. And that's exactly what we did. We'd go to a dinner date, like, for like far out, outer skirts. And I remember one time we went to the most random place and someone from his firm walks in, and I was like, oh, and at that time, I think I had left by that time, and I just remember I went right under the table. Oh my God. I literally just slid right under the table because I was like, oh my God. So he goes up there, says hi to them, and I run to the car, and I stayed in the car until he was done talking to them.
I mean, I don't blame you.
Yeah,
you worked hard to get there.
Yeah.
But you left that job. Like, you went to a different firm, so you guys weren't working together anymore.
Yeah, so I actually realized very quickly that I didn't want to do corporate litigation, which is what they did. Yeah. And it was great, you know, and I really wanted to get myself a job, like, outside of him, you know, and establish myself outside of him. And I did. I got my first job at my big firm, like at my first big firm, and that one was not really a big firm. And it was great, you know, and at that point we started to slowly come out with it, and here we are 9.5 years later.
Wow.
I know.
I love this.
So
this
crazy.
really is like a romance novel. It's so cute.
I love that.
Can you talk a little bit about introing him to your family? Because wasn't that a little nerve-wracking and scandalous, and didn't you wait like forever?
Yeah. Did I tell you that?
No, I just, I know through Connie. I know you so much.
She knows things about me. I know things about her. I love it. Yeah, so after my first divorce, I was super, super protective of my family. Like, In my family, when you're in, you're in. Like, if you're my friend or if you're somebody that I'm dating or whoever else, you know, that my siblings are dating or friends with, like, everybody knows them and everybody loves them because the way you treat them and love them is like a reflection of you. So, like, you're just naturally loved, you know, that's how it is. So I was like, I'm not going to take that risk again and introduce somebody to my family because I don't want them hurt again. Because they were all hurt with me when I went through that divorce. And so I brought him over as a friend. And I remember, like, by then we were like a thing. And again, Connie's my cousin, non-blood, but like cousin family. And my aunt's like, come here, right in front of my mom. And she's like, he's so gorgeous. You need to go after him. And I'm like, oh my God, stop. And like the whole time we're a thing. But it took me a little over 4 years, 4.5 years, something like that, to actually come out with it and tell my parents.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, I wanted to make sure that we had talked about life, marriage, compatibility, everything before he was going to step foot into my parents' house as a potential, like, partner in my life, you know?
And then, okay, so when you finally did introduce him to the family, did you eventually tell them how long you guys had actually been together?
That's so funny you say that because now you're putting me on the spot to disclose that.
They're going to listen to this and be like, wait, those numbers don't add up.
Yeah. So my mom is so funny. She'll look at me and she'll be like, Shangar, we've known from the beginning, like in her accent. And I will deny it. I'll be like, nah, like we were just friends. No, you know. And yeah, but I mean, my siblings all knew. They all met him. We all hung out all the time. I hung out with his kids all the time. And like, really the timing was right. Like at that point, there was a lot for us to vet too, to be honest. Like I had never, I've talked about this before. Like when you think about your life falling in love, like you don't think, oh, but I'm going to be a step parent.
Yeah.
It just, it's almost like unnatural, but then circumstances present themselves where you like fall in love with someone and you're like, oh, that could be my role. And then you start thinking about it. And that's exactly what this was for me. Like, I was like, okay, I need a little bit to figure out what that role looks like and can I do it? Also, like adversely, like on the other side, he had to think about becoming a father again because I want children. And so he had to kind of, you know, go through that and figure out. So there was a lot of like peeling of layers for us and a lot of conversations that had to be had over the years for us to like be like, okay, this is it. Yes, I accept everything that you come with, basically, and you want from me. So
I think it's really amazing that you guys did that. And Gavin and I talk about this a lot, but we both come from like divorced families and like not so good divorces. We were also together for a very long time before we got married. And before we got married, we had so many conversations about like, okay, if we were to get divorced, what would that look like? What would lead up to that? What would, like, if there was kids involved? If I just feel like we have talked about every single scenario under the sun before even getting engaged even. And then before getting married. And it's like, sometimes I tell that to people and they're like, that's so weird that you spent so much time talking about divorce. And I'm like, yeah, but now we at least know. And obviously, like, you never fully know and like things can change, but it was like so important to both of us to like really talk about everything before ever being like, okay, like let's sign these papers, you know?
Yeah, that's so smart.
Yeah, and I think it's really easy when you feel strongly about certain things to assume that someone else would feel the same way too.
Yeah.
But if you don't have those conversations, you never know.
Yeah.
You know, like if you've said to each other, we want kids, but you've never said, actually, I want 3 kids. Like, maybe kids to them means 1 kid, you know? Like, those are conversations you need to have.
Totally.
But I think that's also maturity.
Yeah.
You know, when you're sitting there talking about all of these difficult things, I mean, it's kind of like the prenup thing, right? Like, some people are like, oh, you're just basically inserting this idea of divorce into the conversation. But you're not. You're thinking about, and actually you're being responsible because you have a daughter, and now you've had these conversations, and you know, like, you know, if something happens, hopefully never, but if something happens, you guys have talked through all of this stuff and you know that no matter what, she's taken care of. You guys have a, you know, similar outlook on things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, and that was super important to both of us. It was like, okay, like, eventually, like, kids are going to be in the picture, and, like, if we were to divorce, how would we act around that child and what would that look like. And like, I just even know growing up, I had certain friends with like divorced parents who it'd be like homecoming, or it would be just some kind of special event in their life, and like the parents didn't like each other, but they would be there and they'd be so like nice and civil, and like it would be so great. And I'd just be like, wow, like I didn't even know this was a thing, that you could have something like this.
Yeah,
And, like,
right.
yeah, I was like so like awed by it, and I'm like, this is incredible.
Or the divorced families where they spend holidays together.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
No,
So we don't do that.
yeah.
Just full disclosure. No.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah, I think the Kardashians are the only people who really
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have seen that. I have definitely seen that, and I think that that's wonderful, honestly. I mean, being, one of two women in our little equation, I wish, like, for the kids that was more of a thing, like that we could do more together, but sometimes it's just not, like, that's just not how the, like, dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just is.
Not always how it goes.
No.
So you guys have been together for a long time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about kids a little bit, because I was just really floored when we started talking about this a couple weeks ago. And I know so many people right now that either have just gone through IVF or in the middle of IVF. Like, it just seems, it is so common right now. And it's still really not talked about for how common it is, which is wild to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I really wish was talked about more as well. And I talk about it as much as I possibly can. Literally, I've talked to all of my friends about it, to my younger siblings about it. I literally, everybody that's like younger in my life, I share everything unfiltered because I want them to learn from it and to take precautions from it. And like, even if you don't want kids and you're in your 20s, it's really important to go see a doctor and just make sure everything looks good. There's testing you can do to see like what your AMH levels are, so like what your like egg count is essentially. I don't really know how that all works. I'm a lawyer, not in science, but there's testing you can do where they tell you, okay, like this looks bad and you should freeze your eggs, or, oh, you're fine, like you still have a few years, These are all things that I learned literally right as like we started our infertility journey. We were trying on our own for a little bit after we got married, and nothing was happening. And I was 33 at the time, 34 at the time. And I was like, okay, I need to go see a doctor like right away because I don't think I have a lot of time to waste. I'm in my mid 30s, and there's just so much that I've learned in the last few years that I'm just kind of like mind blown that nobody else talked to me about this stuff, that these are just not things that are talked about at all. And what's crazy is like I've done 2 cycles of IVF, and I've seen women that are way younger than me in there with me, and it's heartbreaking because you can tell they want it so bad and it's not happening for them. And then you see way older too, so I don't want to be a downer, but this is definitely a thing and it should be talked about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like infertility in general, like, I didn't realize until all of my friends started trying to get pregnant how common it is to be trying for a long time and it not happen, how common it is to have miscarriages, like, all of these things, like, you just grow up thinking, like, the second you stop using birth control, you're going to get pregnant, and it's just, like, I feel like that's so far from the truth. Like,
so
once
far,
you, like, hit this age and everyone's trying to have kids, it's, like, it's just crazy. It's this whole new world that we know nothing about until you're experiencing it.
Yeah. For example, so I'm one of 5. My mom's obviously very fertile. Like, no problems there. I remember the first time I asked her about ovulation. I was like, so what did you do? And she goes, I don't even know what that is.
That's crazy.
What? Like, and there could be like a language barrier, like where I don't know the word for ovulation in Kurdish, which is a language I speak. But she was like, I never tried.
Like she never tracked anything.
Happened. Yeah. She didn't track anything. She just tried and it happened.
That's wild.
And sorry, she never tried and it just happened.
Yeah.
That is funny. But I'm over here like, 500 ovulation sticks in, like, so frustrated. Like, people don't understand that, like, for us, the window to get pregnant is really freaking small. once a month, and that's if you're like, you have a normal cycle and you're perfectly healthy or whatever, like the window is really small,
Yeah. Well, and it's, when I started tracking ovulation, like before we got pregnant, I also didn't realize how just some months randomly you can ovulate earlier. So it's like there was one month where I waited like a little bit too long to start tracking my ovulation. And then I started tracking and then like I just wasn't ovulating. I'm like, oh, and then I like got my period and I was like, oh, I literally just like should have started this earlier. But then it like didn't actually line up with, it's so crazy that it just, everything could be normal, and then 1 month it's just like, oh, now you ovulate a different day.
I had no idea that could
really
happen. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's why I thought it was just, I mean, I just have my period tracker app and I just go based off of my period, but it's helped, so,
you're trying to get pregnant after this, right? You just call me. I'll give you all the details. I'll send you all the links. I literally, like, I feel like I'm the person, like one of my colleagues at work right now is, they're just starting to like try. And she's like, can you send me the links to the ovulation sticks? I was like, I got you. Here, start tracking then. But you're 100% right. Like the apps are really good because they collect data on you. And so I've literally been using those for years, knowing that I wanted to like try at some point. And they tell you like, okay, your cycles are this long. That way, when you're like seeing a doctor, you can speak intelligently about how long your cycle is. They're like, oh, are you 28, 29 days or whatever? Like, you can say, oh, hold on, let me pull this up, and then give them all the info. The thing about the apps, though, is like it kind of anchors ovulation at the very center of like in between your two periods. And like Anna said, it's everybody's body is different. Like sometimes you'll ovulate super late, sometimes way earlier, and sometimes right when you thought you would, So I always like use those sticks. I would say like 3 days after, and that could be too early to some. I don't care. I'm not missing that. So like you just track every day, and
this is such good info to have. It's like perfect timing for me.
It is. I love that.
Can you talk just about the IVF process in general? Because I've heard you talk about it to me, but I also have a friend right now who's about to start, and she's been talking to me a lot about it too. And I've heard IVF is like a process before, and like, but I literally until the last 2 months probably have never truly learned what it's like, and it just seems it's just so much more than you think it is. I feel like everything I knew before was like the tip of the iceberg.
Was your only reference Michelle Obama's book? That's my only reference.
It was that, and then just like a couple like friends of friends that I know that have kind of gone through it, or just like things I see on Instagram where, it's like, I knew there was like shots involved. I knew it was like a process. I knew it took a long time, but I did not know. Like what is that? Can you tell us? You educate us.
I'm so happy you're asking me about this because honestly, so I'm one of those people, and maybe this is a lawyer in me. Before I get into something, I do so much research before IVF. And just because these like teams, at least like locally in Portland, we don't have a lot of different places doing IVF here. So they're super, super swamped. They've got like year-long wait lists before you even get in. So if you think you're going to need IVF, you live in Portland, put your name on the list. Put your name on the list.
That's wild.
Because it doesn't require a deposit. Just basic information, and you're on the list. And that way it's like you're being proactive. If you don't get pregnant and there's an issue or something, you just never know like what you're going to learn in those 12 months. Then that way you've got your name on the list, you've been proactive, and that if that's what you have to resort to, then you can just kind of hit the ground running and not waste time. Especially if you're like in your 30s, like mid to late 30s. But so like IVF is quite a process. Like I remember my very first phone call with one of the nurses, and I was so overwhelmed that I quite literally like sat on the ground where I was and I just started crying because she threw so much information at me that like I didn't even know like how to process it. Even though I had done a bunch of research about like how it goes. Then I started like really watching like long YouTubes of like people going through it from A to Z. And then I started to think about what I would want my journey to look like. So the first time I did IVF, I literally like made a calendar. I made a spreadsheet for that month. And I was like, okay, shot, like and then potential surgery. And, there's just a lot that goes into it. Like, you're doing shots every single day, multiple times a day. Everybody's protocol, the protocol is basically like what your treatment plan is, looks different. And so there may be someone that literally does a week of shots, and then there may be somebody else that does like 12, 13, 14 days of shots. So it could look different for everybody. And really, like, here's what IVF is. I feel like most people don't even know what that is. Every month, like, you're releasing a group of eggs, right? Like, you have a group of eggs, and only one really, most of the time, makes it to like travel through and like make the sperm or whatever. And all the others die. What IVF does is, like, these hormone injections you're doing, it's literally forcing all of the eggs in both of your ovaries to grow to maximum capacity.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's actually like so freaking cool to watch it, to go through it, honestly. Like, so you go in initially and they do this like follicle scan of both of your ovaries, and you see like how many follicles you have. And the follicles are like little bubbles that might or might not have an egg in it. Most of the time they do. That's why they're even there. So like they look through and they're like, oh my gosh, yay, you've got like 10 follicles or whatever. And then right then and there, like what you're going to start growing, which is kind of crazy. Like, wow, I'm growing all of these eggs. And then you start your shots and you go in for an ultrasound every 48 hours and you monitor the follicle growth. And so sometimes the follicles grow slower. So they're like, we're changing your protocol right here, right now. And you're going to start this other injection, or you're going to increase the dosage of this or whatever. And towards the end, right before the egg retrieval, which is like the procedure, you probably have to do ultrasounds like every single day, an ultrasound and a blood draw. And so at some point you just start feeling like a push pin. And it's definitely a lot, but I started to figure out that it's honestly like all about mindset. The second time I did it, I was so excited. The first time I was really, really emotional. And it could have been the hormones or whatever, different seasons in life. I don't know. But the second time I did it, I was ready. I knew what to expect. And it was just a completely different experience than the first time. But just like, I would say like anybody that's doing IVF, just, it helped me personally a lot to see like people's YouTube videos and TikToks or whatever, just to see what that process looks like. Oh, and I also learned a lot of tips and tricks because you're doing all of your shots on your belly, and one of them like burns a lot. So I started like using like ice packs, and it was helping a lot. And the one that burns, like if you inject it a little bit slower, it doesn't hurt as much. And then you just honestly get used to it. I used to be so scared of needles. And then like by the middle of it, I was like, bring it on.
Were you doing it all yourself, or did you have your husband help you?
That's where I draw my line.
Okay, yeah.
No, I can't do it myself. My husband, my sister Goshi has. My mom did one, and I recorded her, and she's so sweet. Like, I didn't look at her face because I never look when they actually like poke. So I was like looking up, and she was so scared when she was like about to poke me. It was so sweet. But like for every single person that's been like a part of it, they're super nervous in the beginning. But I found so much comfort in like telling my family and friends like everything, so that I could have a lot of support. And it was and like your friend, it's really good that she's telling you about it, because it's nice to like, have everyone on your side.
Well, one thing she was saying that I didn't know was like before you even start doing the shots, there's all this like stuff that has to get done. So it's like, one, even if you, like you were saying, if you want to start IVF, like get on the wait list. But two, even when you start it, it's like before you even start it, it's like you're doing these tests, you're doing these blood draws, everything's based on your cycle. And so you can't even get like a date of when you're going to start, because it like, if your cycle changes, then the dates change. So it's like everything is really fluid and like last minute. And then if something happens to your hormone levels, they need to like do more stuff, and your date gets pushed back, or like and then if it gets pushed back, then it's like a whole nother cycle. It gets pushed back. It's not just like a couple days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
so your life is really revolving around
It
this.
truly
Yeah.
is. And this is why, Anna, like I was telling you, and we talked about this too, it's so important that you just disclose all of that if you're working for someone, or even if you have your own business and you have clients. I mean, I don't really know. I guess it depends on the type of business you have, whether you want to disclose that or not. But like for me personally, for my employer, I literally made that spreadsheet where all of my injections were, all of my ultrasounds were, and then I would literally block off dates where it was like maybe egg retrieval. And it's like a 5-day window. And like being a lawyer, I have depositions, I have all these random things happening literally every hour of the day. And, you know, that's really hard to navigate. So I was like, okay, I need to just like make the spreadsheet, educate them on what this looks like, because they have no idea. People don't talk about the fact that this thing literally takes over your life for like the injections and the egg retrieval. All of that I would say is about like 20 days. Give or take. Also, the process leading up to it, they're like, oh, hey, yeah, can you come in for an ultrasound tomorrow? And you're like, oh my God, I have a full day tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you have to like move things around because you need to go and get your follicles checked, you know? So it's really important to just like disclose as much of that as possible so that you have the support you need. Some people choose not to, and that's fine. For me personally, I found it helpful to be like, to teach my 70-something-year-old boss about in vitro fertilization.
Yeah.
He's like, what is that? And I'm like, here's what my life looks like for the next few weeks, and here's why I need support. And he's like, okay, go do your thing.
He's probably, he's just
he's
like,
oh my God.
lady stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's so cool, though, that you, like, brought that to his attention. And that, I mean, I think that I can imagine a lot of people probably get really intimidated by dealing with this and working at the same time. So I think that's such a good idea.
Yeah, and they do. And I had shared this with you as well as I remember I was talking to a friend of mine from another firm that's like from a very reputable firm here in Portland, where they really truly like empower their female lawyers. Like if you look at their social media and LinkedIn and everything, they just put the female partners like front and center, and it's awesome. And this is like a huge firm here in Portland. And I learned from one of my good friends who's a partner at this firm that another partner who's very established went through IVF and just had to take off like a chunk of time because she didn't talk to anyone about it. And it made me kind of sad. And I guess like that's everyone's, it's a very personal thing. So it's kind of your prerogative, like what you want to do with that, right? For me, I was kind of like, I want to change the tone around this because we have younger female attorneys and associates at my firm and clerks who are one day either going to work with us or they're going to work somewhere else, and they may face this, and they should know that this is something that they can talk about if they want to. And that's why I did it, honestly. I mean, it made my journey easier, but I also wanted them to be educated and understand that like this fertility thing, it's truly, it takes a part of my life. And then when you do IVF, it's taking your entire life, your attention. Like you wake up first thing in the morning and you're poking yourself. Last thing at the end of the day, you're poking yourself, you know, and it just takes a lot. So it's important that people understand. And I think it's also from like an employer's perspective, and it's an investment in their employees. Like for me personally, I'm like, okay, they've been so loyal to me. I want to do better for them.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a smart strategy. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. And I've never known anybody to go through IVF, but now I'm wondering maybe I have and they just took the time off work, you know, and
Yeah.
that's why I didn't know.
Can you talk a little bit about the bloating? No,
Yeah,
'cause
I've
that,
heard about this.
That shocked me.
Yeah. So the bloating shocked me too. I remember people were like, oh my God, I'm bloated. I can't, you know, wear my things. And yeah, around day 3, you definitely get bloated. And like, there comes a point where you cannot wear pants just at all. And again, like everybody's body is different. For me, both times I had to like wear something baggy. Wearing leggings that are stretchy, not an option because it just hurts. It's like pushing down.
Oh, it's like too tight.
Yeah.
Because your ovaries are getting so big, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I've heard, this is like on like social media and different things, so this could be like completely inaccurate, but it wouldn't surprise me. I've heard that like our ovaries are the size of an almond, and by the time like they're done growing all the eggs at the end of your IVF cycle, they're the size of a lemon or of an avocado.
Wow.
Which, like, when you think about that, like these tiny little things that are the size of an almond, and then all of a sudden they're like this big, and your body's not used to it. It's a lot.
That's a huge
Yeah.
difference. That's like basically like having a baby, like in there almost.
Like when you're pregnant, I feel like the progression is a lot more natural. But when you're doing IVF, and I try to explain this to my husband all the time because he just looks at me like I'm losing it. And I'm just like, no, you don't understand. Like, look at how big I am. And it's happening over like 5 days.
Yeah.
You know, this is not normal. I look pregnant. But like, it's kind of cool too because then when you go see the follicles, you're like, oh my gosh, like you're actually growing. And it's exciting, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not related to IVF, but I saw a TikTok last night, you guys, that I thought was so interesting.
Tell us.
Where this woman was saying that she's a stylist, and she was saying she had a client who didn't like wearing high-waisted things because she didn't like how she looked from the side. Because no matter what she did, she always had this like pooch in her stomach.
Okay.
Which like I feel like we can probably all relate to that.
Yeah.
And the stylist was saying, like, she was using herself as an example, and she was like, I'm short. You know, the space from like my waist to my hips is like only a couple inches, and like all of my reproductive organs have to fit in that space. And so there's like, it's physically not possible to have a flat stomach, especially if you're not tall, because those organs are going right there. And that's like when you look to the side and you're seeing like this pooch, it's literally like your like all of your reproductive organs. And I just thought that was a cool way of like looking at it.
Well,
so that
also,
just reminded
like,
me of that.
I'm short, wearing a high-waisted thing, and I have a pooch. So
I mean, same.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% true. Like, I feel like a little shorter torso where you don't have a lot of room, like, the journey's totally different. Like, I've definitely seen taller people going through IVF in the clinic. And, like, it looks different.
They're still wearing their jeans.
Yeah, and I'm over here, like, like, I can barely breathe. I can, like, feel it up here, you know?
Because there's nowhere for it to go.
No.
Even with pregnancy though, like I've had some friends, like one of my really good friends, her whole pregnancy she just carried super high. Like her baby like implanted probably at like the very tippy top of her uterus or something because he was like in her lungs. It was like she was not okay. Like she was like, I can't walk without like you know gasping for air. Like it was like really intense towards the end, and he just stayed high like the entire pregnancy. Like it was just so.
Is she short?
No, she's not like that short. No,
Okay.
she just like just carried really high, and it's the more the baby grows, like the more your organs like don't have any space, and especially your lungs when it's like pushing up into your lungs. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Wow, being a woman is wild.
I know.
But amazing at the same time.
It is
You're
amazing.
like, oh my gosh. Especially through IVF, like that you can feed it like hormones to like grow all of these eggs, and then potentially all of them could be good. I mean, that's not common.
Yeah.
But like you just never know. Like you could have like 20 embryos in the bank.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of babies.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I learned too recently was like you basically can go through IVF. You can get a bunch of eggs, but then you can if it works and like they stick or whatever, it's like you can technically if you get a lot from that first round and you want multiple kids, you can just do it all from like the first round of IVF, and then you're just having them put in you. I don't know what the right word for that is. But,
Yeah.
Which I didn't like. I just thought every time you had to go through IVF again, basically to have another kid, but that's not always the case.
Okay,
No.
interesting.
Right?
So that's actually, I'm so glad you touched on that. That's definitely something I forgot to touch on. Like the thing about IVF, first of all, it's not a guarantee. And just so we're all like on the same page, when we're talking about egg freezing and IVF, they're essentially the same. The difference is like the fertilization in IVF, the in vitro fertilization, like that part, like if you have a partner already or a sperm donor or whatever, and you're like gonna fertilize those, then they become embryos. Otherwise, the process is essentially the same for somebody who's freezing their eggs and somebody who's doing IVF. So if me and my sister are going through those processes, they will look almost identical. I mean, of course, we'll have our own protocols, but like it basically looks the same. The only difference is like I would have like my husband's sperm to fertilize my eggs and make embryos, and she would just freeze her eggs. So that's one thing. When it comes to the like how many eggs you get, and this is where I think I've also learned a lot about the importance of like lifestyle, alcohol, smoking, exercise, all those things, sleep, those all impact your egg quality. So like, let's say you're somebody that is able to retrieve 20 eggs, but you don't lead a really healthy lifestyle. There's a really good chance that like the number of eggs that you have that are good quality are not that much. Even if you extract 20 eggs, the point is like it's not guaranteed that you're going to end up with 20 eggs to freeze or to try to fertilize. In my experience, because we're fertilizing, what happens is they call you the next day. They retrieve your eggs on that day. It's actually really wild. So you're like under, and they're retrieving your eggs, and there's literally a window into the lab, and then there's a bathroom on the other side of the lab where your partner is. So while you're sedated, like out, he's over there having a good time. You can't tell me God is so like a woman. You just can't. It's so unfair. So unfair. I'm over here reading like the disclosures about the anesthesia, and homeboy is over there like having a blast.
That's so crazy. I did not know that it was like literally at the same time.
Yeah, so my clinic does it at the same time. I know that like they also collect a sample just to make sure that like he doesn't have a good day or whatever, and then they'll like unfreeze it. But like both times, luckily, we've been able to use like fresh samples. And so like while they are taking it from me, he's doing that, and then literally the lab right here, right next to me is where like my eggs go through like this tube into the lab, and then they fertilize them, which is just wild to me.
That is
like
wild.
science is so
I didn't
cool.
know that.
I know. And then they call you the next day, and then they sit there and they just like monitor them and watch them. They call you the next day and they're like, "Hi, we have this many that made it to day 2 or whatever." And then you have what's called like the blastocyst stage, which is like the stage where like the embryos that are super strong have survived to the point where they can be biopsied to do genetic testing. So for me, I opted to do genetic testing because I've had a lot of miscarriages, and I was like, I'm not going to mess with that. So we're going to do genetic testing. And like, I think that's like day 5. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's day 5. The embryos in the petri dish that basically make it to day 5 are the ones that you could biopsy. And then you biopsy them, send them off. For some reason, my clinic sends the sample to Miami. So like, I always joke that like my kid is like in Miami and they're not even born yet or conceived yet. Yeah. Then like they come back to you and they're like, hey, yeah. But usually like the percentage is like 60% like reductions between like, so you could go in there, collect 20 good eggs, and you could walk out with one genetically normal embryo, which is not uncommon.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. But that's not to be discouraged about. It's still cool that like that's something you can do,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, science is insane. Like the fact that this process is even possible is wild to me.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So then at that point, when do they then put it back inside of you? Like how many days until it's like, okay, now you're going to be pregnant? Like, how does that work?
So there are literally people, and my doctor just told me this because I was freaked out. We have an embryo frozen right now, and it's been months and months. And I was like, is it going to like die? And she was like, we've literally had embryos for 10 plus years. Yeah. Where people have just not like,
That's crazy.
Or they collected too many and they already had like a couple of kids and they're like, oh, we don't know. So that's actually a really good question. So you can do 2 different things. You can do like a more controlled approach to when you want to transfer it, or you can wait till you naturally ovulate on your own. And you can decide like when you want to do that. There are people who want to do what's called like a fresh transfer, which is the day they make the embryo, they like put it in. I personally don't understand that because your body's going through so much on that day. And like, for as like bloated as you are leading up to the egg retrieval, like sometimes you come out even more bloated from the inflammation because they go in there and they pull the eggs out of each follicle, but then the follicles stay and fill with blood.
Oh,
And again,
my
I've
God.
studied all of this.
Yeah.
And it's natural. And
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, it doesn't know what to do. So it just fills with blood. And then you have to like monitor it for what's called OHSS, I think. It's ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome or something like that, where like you could overstimulate the ovaries if you're not careful. So you have to monitor like the ovaries for the next week or so. So I don't understand why they would do fresh transfers like the day of collection. And plus, I've always opted to do genetic testing. So that usually takes like 3 weeks. And by the time you've like retrieved to when you know what's up with the baby, and if it's like genetically normal, it's 3 to 4 weeks. And then you can decide what you want to do. And I think most people now with like the data that they're collecting opt for like what's called the frozen transfer. So they freeze it, and whether they do genetic testing or not, because that's an option, you don't have to, then like you could do it later and let your body heal from IVF and just kind of have a normal cycle and see what happens. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, to me, that's what makes sense. It's like you just put your body through so much and you forced it to grow all of these eggs at the same time, and then you extracted it. It's kind of like, what are you doing to me? You need to give it a little bit of time to just kind of like come back to its baseline and then shock it again with another thing, you know?
And do you have better chances with the pregnancy if you wait for your body to kind of like stabilize again?
I've actually heard that. I think that's why there are some clinics now that just will not even do fresh transfers.
Yeah.
And I think with the risks of the OHSS syndrome, the ovarian hyperstimulation, whatever, I could be wrong, but it's for sure OHSS. There's a lot of risk, and so someone could end up pregnant, but they could have issues.
That's
and then
scary.
all of a sudden you're risking the pregnancy all of a sudden for what, you know? So I think a lot of clinics now are like opting just not to even do that.
Okay, when they are putting it back in you, do they only do one egg at a time, or do they do like multiple just to see what happens?
That's a good question too. So my clinic will not do more than one.
Okay.
They have you sign a contract like at the outset, which by the way, the paperwork for IVF, you need to read. It's very important.
Were you and your husband just sitting at a table reading all this paperwork,
Just taking notes?
Yeah.
We actually had them email it to us because there are so many forms that you're going to sign, and it's very delicate stuff. It's like my egg, his sperm, things can happen. You're waiving a lot in there. There are a lot of waivers in there, and it's like, we don't guarantee this, we don't guarantee that. Basically, they don't guarantee anything, you know?
Yeah.
So super important to read all of those. What was the question you asked me?
Oh, if they put in multiple or just one?
Oh, multiple. So, yeah, my clinic will not do it. As I said, they disclosed it in the contract. But there are other clinics that will do it. They'll, like, put in 2 or 3. I know someone, for example, her and I, our IVF cycles were literally 1 week apart. She was a week ahead of me my first time. And so she would tell me everything that they would do. And so it was kind of comforting, you know, going in. I was like, okay, someone else has already done it. And so she had 2 transferred this last time. She did it, and one of them stuck and the other one didn't. And another thing that could happen too, though, is sometimes you could just put one in and it could split into 2 or 3, which is not unheard of in the IVF world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it common that people will do like 2 and then both will be successful and then have twins, but they're not really twins because they're 2 separate ones? Like fraternal twins or whatever?
Is it common? I don't know that it's common because a lot of times people are just glad to even have one.
Yeah.
At that point, rather than get like greedy and do 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to label that as greedy. But then the people that do 2, it's really to get the best chances. It's not to have twins.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not technically twins. They're not, because they're made from two separate embryos. So they would have been separate pregnancies. And another thing that's really cool, actually, to like touch on, because I've been looking a lot into this, surrogacy. I've been looking into surrogacy a lot. I just found this out and what my mind was blown. Like, I was like looking at a TikTok of a surrogate, and she was like, here are all the reasons like not to work with parents, essentially, like, or parents to be. And she said one of them was like, she interviewed with this couple and they were wonderful. And they were like, hey, we just want to disclose to you that we are actually implanting two separate surrogates at the same time. So we want you to know you're one of two. And we're going to have another one pregnant. Like, we just want our kids, like, at the same time. We just want to knock it out. And I was like, oh, mind blown. I've never even thought of that. That you could take, like now the world we live in, a lot of people, like, surrogacy is really a thing and it's in demand. And the wait list in Portland right now is like a year and a half.
Whoa.
It's insane. A year and a half to 2 years. And it costs 130 to 180 grand a pop.
Wow.
And what's crazy is the surrogate doesn't get a lot of that. They get between 40 and 50, which is
Where does the
Yeah, where does the money go?
legal fees, a bunch of other fees, crazy things. I'm just like,
I'm sure
oh
there's
my
like
gosh.
so much legal paperwork that needs to
So
be done.
much, yeah. They're like 75 grand legal fees.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know that, but
Yeah.
I did do a lot of research, and my mind was blown. My head was spinning, and that's not to say the fees aren't, but it's definitely a business now.
Yeah.
like surrogacy is a thing.
Wait, could you just be a surrogate for one of your friends without having a ton of middlemen? Is that like a thing?
So that's called private surrogacy.
Got
and
it.
you could do that, and a lot of people are opting to do that.
Yeah.
The idea is to, obviously save a lot of the costs associated with the middleman, but then also you're finding your own surrogate. But there are requirements, though. So, you could ask a friend to be your surrogate if they want to, willing and able to. But there are also, like, standards in place. So one of the things that's really important is that, like, if they're going to be a surrogate, they need to have had their own, like, full-term, like, pregnancy and delivered a healthy baby. That's like one of the things that all of these agencies look at. That's a prerequisite to be a surrogate.
That makes sense.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's like an age limit. Like, I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but like years ago, there's this mom that carried her own daughter's kid, and it was like this huge controversy.
I do
So the
remember
grandma like gave birth to the baby.
news. Yeah.
That's wild.
I know, it's crazy. And so and she's like in her 60s or something, but the like recommendation is between 21 and 45, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's wild.
so interesting.
Wow.
But like, just going back to that TikToker, I just couldn't believe that you could like take multiple embryos and decide, like, if you have all this money, you're like, you know what, I've decided I'm having 3 kids at the same time. You, and you. At the same time.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, that is
you can
so
just
wild.
you can just do that.
I know.
I also just I don't know, just the thought of like twins or triplets or like multiple babies at one time, it's just so
Well, triplets especially, because how do you
No.
if you're nurse? I guess if you're a surrogate, you have a surrogate. You're not nursing, but
yeah.
just
Yeah.
the idea of feeding multiple babies
3
at
at the
once.
same time.
You don't have enough hands.
Sometimes like really late at night I get really weird TikToks, and sometimes I end up on like weird like triplet talk or something where it like shows it's like a mom, it's like, this is my day in life as like a mom to triplets, and you see like the processes in place to like feed, change, burp. I'm just like,
And then start over again.
Literally
Yeah.
have to start over again. Yeah, and I'm like, this is wild.
Yeah, that is insane.
Or have you seen the TikToks of like the pregnant bellies of someone who's pregnant with like triplets, or I don't even know what the word is for like 4 or 5 or
Yeah.
whatever. It's
I
just
don't
like
either.
you see it, you're just like, it looks like it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no thank you.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that these people that are sitting there with like 3 surrogates out there, they have enough money for a nanny.
Yes.
They've got 3
Yeah, yeah,
nannies.
yeah. Yeah, they have 3
Exactly.
nannies, yeah.
They've set up shop.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. Any other questions?
I feel like we've learned so much.
I know. We'll have to open a Q&A with the posse so we can answer some more questions because I'm sure there's so many questions.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we go into our obsessions?
I think we should.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go first this week.
Okay.
So I'm slightly forgetting the name, but I was at the store and I found, so one of my things that I'm really into is finding quote unquote like healthy candy, like candy with just like not weird, gross ingredients in it, basically. So there was this like really yummy sour candy, like I love sour gummy candy, and it's, I think it's like a British brand or like somewhere in Europe, and it's called something kittens, like sour kittens or so. It's really cute.
Okay.
One of them were
I'm
kitten
intrigued.
shaped. Yeah. I'll bring them next week for us to eat together. But they were so delicious. The ingredients were not insane. I mean, granted, it is like high in sugar, obviously it's candy, but like the other stuff in there wasn't like disgusting. And I'm obsessed and I like need to go get some more. I like ate the whole pack in one night. It was so good.
Oh my God.
Will you
I'm so
send me the
excited.
link?
I will, yeah.
'Cause I feel like I'm always looking for good candy. If that's even a thing.
Yeah, no, I'll send it. Another really good one is Soccer Bit. I've talked about them before. I'll send you that link as well.
Yeah, I would love
They have amazing candy. But yeah, this one is like, I found it in like a local Portland store. So,
Done.
it's really good.
I'm so excited to try this. My obsession is a local thing this week too. Well, I guess yours is only local because you found it at a local store.
Yeah.
On my birthday, I took myself thrift shopping. And I was blessed by the thrifting gods that day. And I found so many good things. And I went to this store called Forager in Beaverton. And it's like my new favorite vintage store. I've been there a couple of times, but this last time it just like really, it hit. And it's, I don't know, I just feel like when you're in Portland proper, like the thrift stores and the vintage stores are so fucking overpriced. And
It's true.
It's just like, it's really hard to thrift and not spend like $100 on a jacket or whatever. So I just don't even do it. Like if I'm like thrifting, it means I'm going to like Goodwill or like, you know, like one of the like Hollywood Vintage, like one of those massive stores that has like, you just have to like sift for hours to find things. But this place, I guess because it's in Beaverton, their rent is cheaper or something. But like everything is so reasonably priced. Like everything was like $20 to $40. They have like leather jackets for like $30 there.
Wow.
Like just like really good stuff. It's really well curated. And I feel like well curated usually means expensive, but this place was not. And it's just really cute. And the owner is like always there. She's really sweet. And if you're looking for like a good thrifting experience, I highly recommend this place.
Forager?
Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's right by Pip's Donuts. You can get Pip's Donuts on the way out.
Perfect.
Okay, so mine is not retail therapy really
That's
or
okay.
anything you buy, but my obsession of the week is walking before work and me time before work. So that's really what it is like I'm calling it gifting myself time in the morning.
I love
because
this.
my day is so busy and like I have a huge family and I'm being pulled in a million directions. And so it's like you really don't have you time really unless you like make it. And it's really hard to fit it in at the end of the workday because I'm really tired. So I've realized, okay, we're waking up an hour earlier and we're gifting ourselves that hour. And I've just been in a better mood, happier. And I just walk on my treadmill. Literally, that's all I do, and listen to good music or a podcast. And it's super fun, and I'm just instantly in a better mood.
I love this.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That morning time, like before the day starts, really is the only true window where you can like give yourself time. 'Cause
Yeah.
the day just gets away from you, and like
Totally.
there's always too much to do.
Yeah.
I think I have something on my.
I've definitely talked a lot on the pod about like trying to get back into my workout routine after having the baby, and it's been like, I'd say from the start of the year I have gotten better at it, but I was still very much like, I'm lucky if I'm getting like 4 days a week. Usually it's like 3, some days 2, whatever. But this last month, like I've just like told myself like there are no more excuses. Like you're getting up and you're working out and you're just doing this, and like, and I'm with you. Like I feel so much better. I just feel like my energy levels are so much higher. Like there are some mornings where she wakes up like a little bit earlier and then I'm trying to work out and she's like jumping on me and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like you're my weight now. And I like use her as a weight, and it's like a little crazier, but most mornings I can like, you know, get it in without her waking up first, and it has really changed my mornings.
Yeah. And it's such a special gift you're giving yourself,
Yeah.
though. Not even like on that level. Like you just feel like I walked into work one day and I walked into one of my colleagues' offices and I had made myself like a chai, and she looks at me and I was like so hyper, so happy. And she looks at me and she goes, "Oh my God, what are you on this morning?" I was like, "I honestly gifted myself time and I gave myself a hug this morning."
I
And it
love
just
it.
like, set the tone for the day.
Yeah, it makes you
know?
less like resentful about
Yeah.
all the things you have to do, because it's like you already
Exactly.
got your me time. At the beginning of the
Exactly.
day.
That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like you already loved on yourself.
Yeah.
So you're good. Being everyone else's all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
this
thank
was
you for
amazing.
having me. This was
Yeah, this
so
was-
fun. We covered so much.
I know. I
Yeah.
feel like we learned so much from you, and like
Aw.
I'm so excited for your IVF journey and like to see where it takes you. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thanks for
appreciate
sharing all
it.
that with
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
If the posse has questions, where can they find you, or do you want to be found?
Oh, yeah. Well, sure. So I started a page called Women Lawyers in 2020 because I miss communities. So at Women Lawyers on Instagram. You can get on TikTok too, but I have more stuff on Instagram. So we could just stick there.
Okay.
Stick to that. Yeah.
It is a really cute page, by the way.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to
follow it.
follow. I'm
It's
gonna
great.
stalk
Yeah.
your page.
She
after
does a lot
this.
of really cool fashion stuff on there too.
Yeah.
Okay, love.
Yeah,
I'm
so
excited.
Yay.
Okay, and you can find us at Naked Peach Boudoir on all the socials, at Peach Posse on TikTok and peach.posse on Instagram. You can find me at Anna McLaughlin Photo,
You can find me at T Smells with a Z.
and we will definitely be seeing you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.